Welcome everyone to Pcarmarket Live. Today we are not doing an Inside the Market. Today we have a very special guest. One that you'll know the history, and I think you'll all be very excited to hear from him directly. And please everyone, welcome Alois Ruf. Hello, Mr. Ruf.
Hi.
Alois, thank you so much for taking the time to spend with us today. I know it's 4 o'clock by you, right?
It is 4 o'clock sharp, yes.
Now, are you guys...
Thank you for inviting me to make this transatlantic conversation, which is great.
Yeah, this is the new normal, I guess, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Have you had the chance?
If I had to ask, where are you based? You never know.
This is true. Have you had the chance? When was the last time you were here? Like right now, are you in Pfeffenhausen?
Well, I was there exactly a year ago.
Okay.
Actually, almost on the day. I was there for a wedding in Texas on this weekend that just passed a year ago.
Wow, yeah.
And
yeah.
I spent another week in Texas and in California. That was my last trip to the States. Normally, if times would be normal, I would have been there a couple more times, I'm sure.
Sure.
I usually come 2 or 3 times per year to the States.
And how are things by you? Is everyone in quarantine, or is it pretty much open at this point?
It's up and down. You know, in the spring it was very bad because everything closed down. And then things sort of normalized, and now we're worried that another lockdown has to come because the numbers are raising like crazy.
Yeah.
And but us in the company, we are still working, and we have always been working. So we are in the country, and that helps also. Yeah,
away from the crowds is always a very, very good thing right now. So I'm glad you're all doing well there. And we want to send our prayers and that everyone is healthy and continues to be.
Same for you.
Thank you. Thank you so much. You know, I want to go. We could spend all day, and I know that you don't have all day, so it's going to get kind of late there. So, but I want to set a little bit of groundwork here. I've seen quite a bit of interviews, and I know that people are interested in what you have done, but also what you're doing. And I just want to share one thing. As a kid, I know that everyone watching can relate to this. We always were fascinated when we saw a Porsche Turbo, 930 in the era, and we got very, very excited. But there was always those few occasions, and I can remember them where I would look at a car and it would be a little different from about 50, 60 feet away. And as I would get closer, I'd see that little badge in the back of the trunk on the engine lid, and I'd see RUF, and my hair would stand up, and I would be so excited. And as I walked closer to the car, it would just be fascinating. It would just be such a special sighting. I know you probably heard this a million times, but what a special treat. But yeah, so it's an honor to speak to you. And I want to just set a little bit of groundwork here that what people do know, and then I want to talk a little bit about the future. But in 1939, Ruf Automobile was created. Your dad, right, at that time in Pfeffenhausen, and am I pronouncing that correctly?
You said it correctly, Pfeffenhausen.
Pfeffenhausen, yeah, in Germany. And I know, and at 24 years old, a sad time that your dad passes. And we all know that sons can usually destroy what a father has built. It's not uncommon. Yeah. And I think that at this point, you don't need me to say this, but I think you've done the Ruf name pretty proud, and your dad would be very proud, but what you've accomplished. And I know also your wife, Estonia, who is clearly you adore, everything I've ever seen. It's very, very lovely to see that. And I know that she's also very involved in Ruf as well, no?
She's very involved, and she's my better half.
Yeah, it comes across
in running this business here. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, that's fantastic. So what I want to do is everyone knows what I had just mentioned, but and I want to, if you could just take a moment and a little bit of the events that transpired to bring to that point of when you took over when you were 24 years old with your dad, with the bus and things that created these twists of fate that brought you to the Porsche world and to go into this part of the Porsche world.
Well, but my father, with his doing, he taught me one thing that was very important. He sort of gave me the feeling, don't worry about anything. Anything's possible.
Yeah.
So the sky is the limit. So don't be afraid of doing things. When you feel like doing it, then you have to do it,
Yeah.
And when I saw as a child, I was 6 years of age, when he built his own tour bus, that he used for over 10 years. And it happened to be in that vehicle when he drove, when he was passed by a Porsche 356 that ended up in the ditch afterwards. And he ended up buying this car, and that was our entree to the Porsche world. We bought this car, we fixed it, we drove it for a year. And then another crazy event happened in Munich. A young guy comes and knocks at the window and asks us to sell the car to him. And we sold it on a Sunday afternoon with cash money from him. And it was an unbelievable story. And so therefore, this was, we knew that the Porsche people are not normal people. They must be crazy. It's all about passion. Everything's different. Nothing is with common sense. Everything's about emotion. And this is what we learned at that time. And having made this experience, that made us go to the next steps and the next stages. And when my father passed away, it was a very difficult time in my life. I was just 24 years. I didn't have all my licenses yet to continue the company. So I had to go through all of that, which in Germany is you have to have Meister title, you know, and in order to be qualified to run a business.
Right.
And so I went through all of that. I was thrown into the cold water, and I learned how to swim. That was good. And I had very, very good people around me that helped me doing all of that to accomplish all what we have accomplished. And then basically, when Porsche decided to go against the 911, because the 911 was the car that it was supposed to be put at rest or send it into the cemetery, if you want to say so, because they said there's a new car, and it's a better car, and it's the 928 that will supersede the 911. I knew and I was sure from the bottom of my heart that there will be still people who love that 911, that funny car with the rear engine, not the best functioning heating system, and all of these negatives that we had about the 911. But that made the charm of the vehicle. And look what happened. Today we know it all, because at that time it was at a point where where people were not sure, is it going to be a 911 in the future or not?
Yeah.
And but I was sticking with my fans and customers who reassured me and gave me that assurance. We want to be 911 forever, you know?
Yeah.
And,
yeah.
And that made us go to the next step, becoming a car manufacturer, building cars with our own chassis and also with bodies in white that we purchased in Porsche. Mm-hmm. And then we went we were invited by Road and Track to this high-speed event in 1984. We did the 186 miles per hour run with a car that looked, like Ferraristi said to me, it looks like a frog. But it functions and it ran, you know.
Yeah, and I don't want to go too far ahead there, because I want to just rewind a little bit to what you said before. So this is what I want to know, and I know that a lot of people want to know. Do you believe that the 911, if you did not take and kind of maybe put a little bit of inspiration back into the 911 at that time, that the 911 would be gone? Do you think that there was a big role that Ruf played in that? And I know you're a humble gentleman.
Yeah, indirectly, we were a little team of revoluters. You know, we were staying with the 911, and in Stuttgart they said, no, this is a dead-end street. The 911 has the future. 2 more years, and then it's the end of it. That was the talk in 1979.
My goodness.
That was, it was amazing.
And did that kind of give maybe a little window of opportunity, because maybe they weren't as guarded as they would have been with their products, and they let you maybe do more than they would have if it wasn't on its way out?
Basically, you know, it was the management. They were sticking with their idea, and then when Peter Schütz came, the new CEO, the second CEO of Porsche after it became a public company, and he just turned around the steering wheel of Porsche, you know, completely. He said, "Okay, we build 911s. This is what our customers want, and we will continue the 928 and the 944, and they were all successful cars." But the 911 was always the heart of the company, you know. Or you could also say the 356, because this is how it all started. But the 911 was a true successor to the 356.
Yes, absolutely. And I want to bring up something, and I'm even going to go a little further back. Maybe nobody asked you this before, but were there any inspirations for you from around the world? You know, specifically, what I mean is, like, when you look at somebody like Carroll Shelby, what did you think of what was happening in America and around the world at that time? Were you impressed with the Cobra? What did you learn?
I was totally impressed. You know, I mean, this was such an example at that time in the 60s.
Yeah.
When Ford came and they won against Ferrari, that was such a big deal. You know, the word got around the reliable American V8 engine, and displacement is everything, and so on. You know, this was a very, very important era. And then when Porsche came with the 917, they said, okay, we have to be stronger than the American V8. And they came with a 12-cylinder engine. This was, again, the most impressive. It was really the champion of the giants. You know?
Yeah, so there was some inspiration there. And here's what's interesting is, you know, whenever there's a successful story, Alois, nobody knows this better than people that have been around long enough to have the ups and downs. You look at the story of Carroll Shelby, the failures that led to the successes, some massive failures. When we look at Ruf, we see success. We see one car after another breaking records. But share with us a little bit about some of the trials and tribulations. I mean, was there ever a moment where you were doubting what you were able to do? Was there ever anything that you shot for and fell short that may have been a difficult time during building this foundation of Ruf?
No, I always felt comfortable, but I must say the Yellowbird in 1987, which its top speed record with 211 miles per hour, that was something that I didn't even expect, and I didn't expect that we would be so far ahead of all the other competitors in that match. You know, and it was amazing what the long-term impact of that car was. Because we only built 29 cars. They're all in collectors' hands today. But then many, many years later, we were approached by Sony from Tokyo to put our Yellowbird into a video game. I didn't really understand what a video game was. You know?
And is it true that I think Porsche had a deal with one gaming company, and they would not let Porsche would not let it be used anywhere else, and that was also
there were some politics involved.
Yeah, and that opened up a door where actually it was a win-win for everyone. They were like, let's, yeah.
Because you know the Yellowbird is also seen by the people as a Porsche. You know, it's made in Pfaffenhausen, it's made by Ruf, but
sure.
The soul of the car, we all know where it comes from. You know?
Yeah. So they had a chance to have a Porsche, but a Ruf. So it actually made it very, very. Those gaming companies didn't realize how special it was that Porsche said no, and they were able to get the Ruf, which was really special.
Yeah, that's still the case, and I can quote the CEO of Porsche at that time. Once we were coming home from winning this high-speed event with Road and Track in 1987. And, of course, the people at Porsche, they were not happy that the 959 didn't win the trophy. It was us, the Yellowbird.
Wow.
But he was very pragmatic, you know.
Yeah.
He said, come on, guys. It's still a Porsche. And that's what it was.
Yes, but no, but yes. I understand. That must have been a very tenuous moment in history. I'll tell you, I love that. And you know what? I have so much. I want to just bounce back one more time here. Just what was you? Because I want to talk about the Yellowbird, and I want to go through a little bit of a timeline here, which hearing from you is going to be fantastic. But what about the 1960s race cars? Were you inspired by the 904 or the RS60? I mean,
oh yeah, of course.
Which was your favorite?
The 904.
The 904.
I saw the 904 winning a hill climb race, and it had the Sebring exhaust, the single pipe, and that sound. I was just fascinated about that from that car. That was in 1964, 65, around that time. Mm-hmm. Now,
was there anything from that car that inspired you? Going obviously the sound, but it was quite a few years before, right? You really, but you were working on Porsches already at that time, yes?
At that time, we were doing service and we were doing repairs on Porsches. but we have not made our own creations. The inspiration to the creations came basically when Porsche reduced the 911 and said, okay, there will be only one model left, which was the 911 SC. And this is the final model, and this is it. And then the RS 73, which was the iconic car already at that time, a car with the 6 butterflies and mechanical fuel injection didn't exist anymore.
Right.
Porsche, but also because of regulations, which I understand. I was totally inspired to bring always back a car which gives you that feeling of this 2.7 RS. You know, that is something there that I would still produce today and try to bring that back.
I have a 73 RS, a nice tangerine one, and it doesn't make a difference what I drive. I can go into this, maybe a Ferrari, maybe into some beautiful, we have an RS 60, and when I get into that car, it's unbelievable what they were able to produce, and I don't even think Porsche was able to do that again.
That's true. I'm sure when they put that car together, they didn't have a plan to go beyond that step. You know, it was just one of those creations that came out. You know, and it's fantastic what they accomplished. Yeah. And I'm hanging on to the same dream, and that requires a car with a soul. And this is what we are giving our cars. We still build cars with a soul.
Yeah, and it's not easy these days. But so now I want to bounce to 1978. One of the things that I will share with you, and some of the guys here said, do not say that. I'm a naturally aspirated guy. I'm not a turbo guy.
Yeah, absolutely.
I love the linear power, although I do appreciate the turbos. And but I will tell you, you know, in 1978, you take the SC Ruf, right? SC Ruf, yes. And you build a naturally aspirated car, yes?
Yes. And
that was your first car that you built for the public?
No, the first one was the Ruf Turbo #1. That happened in '77.
Right, the year before.
Yeah, that was the year before. And then we followed in '78 with the SCR. And the SCR idea was to bring back the performance and the feel of the Carrera RS 2.7.
Okay.
And when that car went to Automotor and Sport at that time, and they made the test, and the results were basically the same, just a little bit more than the RS. The top speed was 255 kilometers per hour. Mm-hmm. The acceleration was exactly the same like the 2.7 RS. The people from the magazine, the test drivers, they were totally happy because they found their RS again.
Yeah. Oh, is that right?
Which was abandoned, you know, at that time.
Fantastic. Yes.
This is 15 years after, 5 years after the RS was built, you know.
Yeah, and with the fuel crisis going on, 20% interest rates here in the States, did that affect?
Same thing here.
Yeah, it was really a tough time around the world. But did that affect what you built? Would that car have been a turbo? Would it have been built differently if there was not a major fuel crisis at the time? What part did that play in the SCR?
The SCR, we were already freed of the energy crisis, because fuel was available and people wanted to have fun, and they wanted to have a car that they can use on the Autobahn and drive and enjoy it, you know, or the racetrack, whichever. But the energy crisis affected us from '73 in the fall until '74 in the summer.
That's right. Oh, yeah, by '78 it was. That's right. By '78 it was trying. Yeah, right.
'78 it cleared. The fog was on.
Yeah,
you know, but. Around that time, it was a very difficult time for us and also for me here in the company.
Is that right? Yeah.
The interest rate was crazy high.
Yes.
And nobody really knew what's going to happen. You know, what's going to be in 1 year from now. That nobody could give an answer to that.
Yeah. I guess.
Especially here in Germany, people believed that this is the end of driving automobiles. You know,
really?
This is the way it was presented from the politicians.
Wow, so that was really a dark time for.
That was a very dark time.
Wow. Well, that's when they say that when the tough get going, the going gets tough, the tough get going, and I guess it built it built some character, right?
Yes.
So 1983 comes around, the BTR, the first with a roof VIN, right? This is, you become an auto manufacturer at that time.
Yeah.
Over 300 kilometers per hour, faster than the Testarossa and the Countach. The question I have for you is, did you go out to beat the Testarossa and the Countach, or was this just the result of what you had
No,
built?
it was just the result. It was just the result. We were not gearing up to beat these cars, you know. Let's say if the red cars would have been faster, we would have had to take it too. And say, okay, all right, they are faster, and they actually look faster than our cars. You know? It's a different world, you know.
Yeah.
And but what's interesting is that a lot of talk was about the speed of 300 kilometers. Okay, 300 kilometers is our type of a reference speed. Mm-hmm. It is 186 miles, which is an uneven number. That's calling close to 200 miles per hour. People will talk about it, but nobody has ever seen a car going that fast.
At that time, yeah.
And it actually happened. And it was so nice because an era that's seen at the high-speed oval from Volkswagen, where the test was performed, they had a digital device with a display, you know, with these flaps like they have in the airport, you know, that go up and down and click, you know, show the speed. And it only showed 06.4. And then Paul Freire and Phil Hill said, "This cannot be the speed. 6 kilometers per hour is cannot be." You know?
Oh, that's so
so there must be a 3 in front. But the 3 was stuck because it hasn't been used for so long. The last time the 3 was used was when the 917 when the R&D work was done there for the 917.
Is that right? Oh, my goodness.
That's why the 3 got stuck. It only showed 6.4.
That is so funny. That is terrific. Have you said that story before? I've never heard that.
Yeah, well, I told it recently to a couple of car guys.
That's so funny. That's fantastic. And then in 1987, the 959 and the F40 are introduced, and this is what you had mentioned before, but the CTR comes out. And 463 horsepower, 211 miles per hour, 5-speed, known as the Yellowbird. And from what I understand, one of the journalists saw the yellow car and named it the Yellowbird, I guess.
They named it, yeah. It was John Lamb, who just passed away recently.
Oh, interesting.
And, and it was Richard Barron, the icons from Road and Track. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, could you remember that day? Is that in your mind what you?
That was the 11th of April, in 1987, and I never forget that day. And the reason they named it Yellowbird is it was sticking out from all the other cars.
Yes.
It was such a bad weather day. It was dark sky. It was always raining on and off, and most of the cars were dark colors. You know, and the yellow car was bright and shining there, you know. This is why that name was given. It was only a play with words.
Yeah, but you know what? Now a cultural icon, and it means so much to so many people. And so this was at the Volkswagen Research, right? The Oval
Research Track, yeah, close to Wolfsburg. Mm-hmm.
And it at that day it was the fastest car on the track again.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, and wow.
What I meant to say, David, I mentioned the 29 cars that we built, the CTRs, and 60 million are in the video games.
60 million?
60 million cars. Something we would have never expected.
Are they paying you per car? Do you get paid per car?
Pardon?
Do they still pay you per car?
We get something.
Okay, good.
But it's very fair. We are happy that all these cars are in circulation.
Oh, yeah, of course, of course.
Yeah.
But you were going to say
something. It's amazing how many people know the car from the video games. You know, it can happen that the customs inspector, when you immigrate to the United States, says, "Oh, are you the guy with the Yellowbird?"
Is that funny?
Something like that can happen, you know. It's amazing, yeah.
Well, this is how you get the young people, right? The younger people to understand.
And their fathers, they play it too, you know.
Oh yes, yes.
Fathers, friends, family members.
Yeah. But wow, you even have like a 10 or 12-year-old kid talking about Ruf and fighting over who's going to get to drive the Ruf in the video game. I mean, that's spectacular. Exactly. It really is. So then the BTR2 comes out 93, 95. And am I correct to understand that was the first 993 turbo?
Yes, that's correct.
That was the first 993 turbo.
And so even before Porsche came out with their turbo, the BTR2 was a turbo, 3.6, 440, and a single turbo, though, right?
It was a single turbo, yes. And in parallel, we had the CTR2, which was a twin turbo car.
Yes, yes. The CTR2
that came out around the same time when Porsche came with the 993 turbo. That was in 1996.
And I do have to say this. Probably the best looking car that mankind has ever made.
Thank you.
And that's a bold statement. And I have to tell you, I was at an RM auction and there was a black one with a green interior. And when it passed by me, I mean, I've never been up close to one before. I've seen them, but if no one has ever seen that car in person, the presence with that rear wing and the way it sits, and words are hard to describe the car. When that car was done, did you look at it before the public and did you feel that it was that special, or were you surprised on how amazed people were at the beauty of the car? Forget the performance for a moment, just how beautiful that car was.
Well, we had a very good designer working on the car, a friend of mine. His name is Stephen Winter, and the idea was to make a car that looks different from the appearance because Ruf has never been famous for changing too much of the appearance of the car.
Sure.
Because we were always very, very conservative. And that was the first time when we said, okay, let's make a different rear end with a wing and use the wing also as an air intake, so it has the function of flowing air to the engine and to the intercoolers for cooling.
Yeah.
And all of this was combined, and it looked at the end all perfect and the way it's supposed to be, that this car could have come this way from Stuttgart as well. You know, those were comments that were given by people who were true 911 lovers.
Yeah.
That gave me the assurance that we said, okay, now we go public with this car. We want to show it.
Yeah, the proportions.
And it worked out well, yeah.
Yeah, the proportions is the word there. It's just so well proportioned. Yeah. But so, you know what's interesting is Tony Hatter, who designed the 993, this was a major change from their designing. Like when the 993 came, right? So you kind of worked off of that in a really nice way, because the 993, a lot of people don't know this. When you talk to Tony Hatter, and I had a chance to do that, am I pronouncing his last name right? Right?
Yeah, correct.
Yeah,
that's correct.
He was, you know, he was talking about how much of how off this car was from their normal design, and how a little bit not concerned, but they didn't know how the public would respond to all of these drastic changes with the headlights being tilted back and a little bit smaller fenders. So it was really, what a special time for Porsche. You see, it's usually when things change like that that really brings that creative spirit out in people, and you guys did that as well, yes?
Yeah, but at the same time, it all happened. At that time, I didn't know Tony at all. You know, I didn't know anybody who worked at design from Porsche. I got to know them later in later life, you know.
Sure.
But this fellow who helped me with the design, Steve Winter, he used to work at Porsche many years before. He worked there in the mid-'80s, and then he passed on to Mercedes, and then he went to some companies in the United States, and then to Korea. And he's a very impulsive and enthusiastic guy, and it worked out well this way. It took a couple of evenings until the renderings were made, and we sat at the table together with a couple of good drinks, and then something good comes out.
Yes, yeah. Creative people are interesting, without a doubt. And so, what's interesting is that I have a note for myself over here. Is the only car I believe that was faster at the time was the McLaren F1. Yes,
but that happened later.
A little bit later. So
let me think. When was the F1? They beat us, and they were a much faster car. They were doing 380 around that time.
Yeah. Well, I think pretty good company.
Yeah. It was a $1 million car already at that.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. So then water cooled happens. Like, how did Alois feel when the water cooled Porsches came out? What was your feeling?
Not happy.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I knew when it gets to serious performance, the water-cooled engine is ahead, you know.
Yes.
We learned that from the 956s, 962s, the race cars. We knew when you really want to exceed and get in the range of close to 1,000 horsepower, then you need to have a water-cooled engine.
Yeah, no doubt. And then finally here, and I appreciate all this time, is the SCR pays homage to the 1978, the green, that roof green one. Probably correct. My favorite. Now, here's what the question I have for you is, are we able to guess that your favorite Porsche was a 964? Because of the fact that you made this car, that body style?
Well, the 964 was the last one that had the original body style, you know, and I like the 964 the best of all the later air-cooled 911 that came out. So this is why we were staying with that style, and it was also the style of our Yellowbird. You know, the Yellowbird was actually based on a chassis of a 3.2 Carrera, but that was the silhouette of the original 911.
Right.
And that was also used for our Yellowbird.
And when we look at the CTR, we look at the new SCR, we can see that it's that body style that you happen to love and what you wanted to use. And you know,
great. Thank you. You have to come and drive it, David.
No, I want to. As a matter of fact, one final question is, what happens next? What happens now? Is electric in the future? Alois, I mean,
we had electric in the past. In 2008, we had the first electric car, and we have shown and proven to the world that we can do it. But our inspiration was our other business is hydroelectric power in the family.
Oh,
and the idea was, how could we combine the hydroelectric power and bring that power into our cars and propel one of our cars? And this is why we ended up with an electric car. We didn't know that we would trigger an avalanche at that time, or we were far ahead of everything, you know. The only electric car that was spoken about was the Tesla at that time, which was still based on the Lotus, you know, the sports car.
Very interesting, very interesting. So I guess it's stay tuned, right? Stay tuned for what's next.
Yes, exactly. Yes. Stay tuned.
Yes. Well, Alois, thank you so much for spending the morning here and the afternoon in where you are, and I really appreciate it. It was a pleasure speaking with you.
Thank you. Pleasure is mine.
Okay.
Have a good day.
Thank you so much.
Stay healthy.
Thank you.
All right.
Yes.
Sure. Bye-bye.
Now, there you go. There's a Pcarmarket Live with Alois Ruf. Thank you for watching Pcarmarket Live, and don't forget to check out Pcarmarket.com. See what's happening with all the Porsche auctions and other enthusiast vehicles. We have a tremendous selection, and also check out the store, the Pcarmarket store, where you can get your T-shirts for Pcarmarket Live and your stickers for your car, your Pcarmarket stickers, and all that great stuff. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you soon.